Hello, ESL 101 students. This is the last mini lecture we're going to have in this class, unless I decide to make one or two more just for review. But it is the last new grammar we'll be learning. This goes along with Units 12 and 13 in your book. All right, gerunds and infinitives. Well, what are they? Gerunds and infinitives are verbals. These are verb forms that can act like a noun. Now, nouns can be, subjects, objects of prepositions. Well, these can too. In a way, they're verbs with noun superpowers, which is why I have this funny little superhero on here, the super verbal guy. Or maybe they're nouns with verb superpowers, however you want to look at it. As I said, they can be objects of verbs, they can be subjects of verbs, and they can take their very own objects too. So I like saving the world. That's a gerund. That is the object of the verb like, but then it also has the word world, all right, which is the object of the gerund saving. I like to save the world. There you can see it as an infinitive. Saving the world is exciting. Now you can see it being used, a gerund being used as a subject, and so on and so forth. Here's some more examples. So everything on our left, we have super gerund guy. Everything on the right is super infinitive guy. So gerunds, saving the world is my duty. Here you can see it's the subject of the sentence. So saving the world, all right, is the verb. I can have it as a direct object. I like saving the world, all right, where I is my subject, like is my verb, and saving is an object. Now, in both of these, you can see that the world is the object of the gerund saving. Can also be an object of a preposition. I like to talk about saving the world. So about is a preposition, saving is a gerund. It's the object of the preposition. And then once again, the world is the object of the verbal saving. Infinitives can do some things that are cool too. They can sometimes be a subject. To save the world is fun for me. It's a little less common. It's a little more common to say it is fun to save the world. They can be subject complements, so they come after a linking verb like to be. His job is to save the world. They can be a direct object of a verb. I like to save the world. Now notice there's no preposition here. Only the gerunds can be objects of prepositions. Okay, more on our gerund. So here's super gerund guy again. Gerunds can be subjects, and when they do, they have singular agreement. So our 5 sentence types: affirmative, saving the world is easy. Negative, saving the world isn't easy. Yes, no. Is saving the world easy? WH subject, what is easy? And then other WH, when is saving the world easy? Okay, so there's a hard part and an easy part. The easy part was just gerunds and infinitives are pretty easy to make. The hard part is memorizing what verbs are followed by gerunds and what verbs are followed by infinitives. There's nothing I can teach you about this. This is all memorization. Some of the verbs that are followed by gerunds are things like enjoy, suggest, or imagine, and I have sample sentences on the slide. Verbs that are followed by infinitives include promise, choose, pretend, and again, there are sample sentences on the slide. The thing is, like I said before, there's no rules for these. You just have to memorize all the verbs in the back of your book on page A7. And you have to learn that this verb takes a gerund. This verb takes an infinitive. Just memorizing. Here's the second hard part. All right, some verbs are only gerunds. Some verbs take only infinitives. Well, some verbs take both. And some of them take both with no difference in meaning, and some have a difference in meaning. So memorizing the ones that have no difference in meaning, that's pretty easy. Like, they like playing soccer, they like to play soccer, it has the same meaning. There's no difference. But with verbs like forget, try, remember, stop, all right, these do have a difference. So with forget, I forgot buying milk versus I forgot to buy milk. I forgot buying milk means I did it, but I didn't remember that I did it. I forgot to buy milk means I didn't do it. try, for example. He tried opening the window means he did do it. Versus he tried to open the window means he couldn't do it. Once again, these are also on page A7 in the back of your book. So you need to learn everything that's in there. So here's some more about those verbs that can be either a gerund or infinitive with a difference. So again, I said there are 5 that we're going to talk about. So the first 2, forget and remember, are 2 sides of the same coin. So he forgot locking the door. It means he did it. He did lock the door, but he didn't remember that he locked the door. If I say he forgot to lock the door, he didn't do it. He had a responsibility and he didn't remember his responsibility. Remember is a little bit different. If I say she remembered buying flour, she has a memory of doing it. She remembers the time she went to the store to buy flour. If I say she remembered to buy flour, it was her responsibility, and she did do her responsibility. So with remember, in both cases, it happened. It's just one is talking about a memory and one is talking about responsibility. Moving on to regret. If I say I regret telling or I regret gerund, it just means I'm sorry I did something. It was a bad idea. I regret eating all the cookies. I regret staying up till midnight. I did it. It was a bad idea. If I use regret plus an infinitive, it is to give bad news, always bad news, in a formal way. It could be a rejection letter, for example, or just giving bad news, like, I regret to tell you that your grandfather has passed away. It could be either one, but it's always giving bad news in a formal situation. Stop. He stopped smoking means quit. He stopped to smoke means he took a break from doing something else in order to smoke a cigarette. She tried feeding the baby. Well, she fed the baby, but it didn't solve the problem. Maybe the baby was crying. She tried feeding him. The baby ate, but he kept crying. She tried to feed the baby means she couldn't feed him at all. Maybe the baby just would not eat. What I want you to do with this slide is pause the presentation, read each sentence, and in your grammar notebook, jot down the meaning. Then, when you're ready, go on to the next slide to check your answers. All right, as I talk about these, I want you to follow along in your notebook as you listen to the explanation. Jeremy forgot telling his friends about meeting Obama. This means that Jeremy did it. He did tell the friends. He just forgot that he told the story. So his friends are like, Jeremy, you already told us this. We already know this story. I forgot to turn off the stove this morning means I didn't do it. I had a responsibility, but I neglected to do my responsibility. Hannah will always remember visiting her grandparents in Albuquerque. That's a memory. She will always have this memory. Did you remember to submit the assignment? This is asking about a responsibility. Did you take care of your responsibility? Lexi stopped drinking coffee means she quit. No more coffee for Lexi. Lucy and Samuel stopped to have tea. Lucy and Samuel decided to take a break and drink some tea. So they stopped doing whatever they were doing in order to drink tea. I tried opening the window means I opened it, but it didn't fix the bigger problem. Maybe the room is still hot. Maybe there's still a bad smell in the room. Sally tried to open the door means she was unable to do it. Maybe it was locked. Maybe it was stuck. Maybe there was something blocking the door. We regret telling Jennifer that her coworker was ill means we told Jennifer, and then Jennifer had a bad reaction that made us sorry that we did it. It was a bad idea. We regret to inform you that your application was denied is formal bad news. All right, here's more of the hard part. There are other things you're going to have to memorize. Now, these are on page A8 in the back of your book. There are some common expressions, collocations, that are just going to be groups of words that always go together. So, for example, no excuse for. Those words always go together, and they're followed by a gerund. So there's no excuse for cheating. If I use spend time, I say he spends time volunteering. Okay. And then there's also ones that have a verb that takes an object and then has the infinitive. So between the verb and the infinitive, there's an object. So like persuade, he persuaded me to join them, or warn, she warned them to be careful. So you need to memorize all of those as well. And that's not all. Not only did you have to memorize all these other things, you also have to memorize all these groups of words that are a linking verb like be plus an adjective that have an infinitive after. I am willing to help you. It is likely to rain tonight. You have to memorize all these verb and preposition combinations, not because they're directly related to gerunds and infinitives, but because you need to know those prepositions. These are types of idioms. Many of these are phrasal verbs. Now, if you're going to use one of these, it's going to be followed by a gerund or by a regular noun. So we're thinking about moving, or we're thinking about pizza. So you have to know what verb and what preposition goes together. And then we have adjectives that take certain prepositions, like afraid of. She is afraid of failing 102. So the two things that have prepositions, so the adjective preposition and the verb preposition, these will always be followed by a regular noun or by a gerund. All right. What you have to do is memorize the preposition that makes up these collocations. And then one last thing to terrify you with. Gerunds and infinitives also have passive forms. Now you'll learn the passive voice in 102, so we're not going to spend very much time on it at all, but we'll talk about it briefly. So an active voice, he is afraid of chasing zombies. We saw afraid of already. All right, chasing zombies is an active. Chasing is a regular gerund. Zombie is the object of chasing. But I could also say he is afraid of being chased by zombies. So being chased is the passive gerund. All right. And with the infinitives, I want to tell you the story. That's the active. I want to be told the story. That's the passive. We are not going to do a lot with these in this class, but I want you to be aware they exist. All right. Like I said, you got to study. The main part of these 2 units is memorization. Don't wait until the weekend to start learning these. You need to learn them before. Make flashcards or notes or enlist a friend or a family member to help you. Study all of Units 12 and 13. Do all the exercises. Check everything in the key. Do your online workbook if you bought it. Do everything you can. You have to learn those verb and preposition, adjective and preposition, all of those combinations. And when you're ready, we've got some quizzes. However many quizzes I put up for Module 8, the password will be superhero. All right, guys, this is the end. Like I said, this is pretty much all the new grammar we're learning in this class. So your mission as a super grammar student, learn everything in those units. Okay? Finish the checks and the assignment in Module 8. Start reviewing for Module 9 if you have time. It's just going to be reviewing the forms of the future and then the gerunds and infinitives. Remember, at the end of Module 9, we'll have our last regular grammar and writing tests, and then start reviewing for your final exams. Good luck, and see you online.